Alright, now for the one and only miscellaneous weapon, the bowgun. This is making a return from Resident Evil 2, and how appropriate since Claire's using it. First, let's go over the ammo, the bowgun arrows. An iron-made arrow for use with a bowgun. More like iron-made set of arrows, but yeah. Okie dokie. Now this is bowgun powder. Let's check this out real quick. This is gunpowder for a bowgun arrow. Okay, so much for that description. But anyway, what this does is if you combine it with regular arrows, it turns them into explosive arrows. So check this out. There you go. Now gunpowder arrows. An iron bowgun arrow, or set of arrows, combined with gunpowder. All you're doing is saying what it is. Well, anyway, got all these arrows here. The only reason I had it like that was one, so I could make these explosive arrows, and two, just to check the arrows. But if I were to combine the arrows with the gun right now, it would put all 380 arrows into it, and I would have a total of 410 arrows in this thing. But I'm not gonna do that right now, because we do need to see it reloaded. Now let's go over the actual gun itself. Crossbow Handgun, a powerful bow gun, which is mainly used for hunting. All right. So this in particular isn't based off any real-life weapon, but there are crossbow handguns in real life. So the location of the bowgun is on the second floor of the military training facility, specifically the observation room. As you can see, it is lying on the table here, or the desk. And it's worth mentioning that regular Claire gets the bowgun in her loadout when you play as her in battle game. All right, so here it is in game, Claire holding it, looking pretty awesome. Let's get her pose. All right, and let's go ahead and test it out. Her reload animation is exactly the same from Resident Evil 2, as well as the sound bites. Okay, so as you can clearly see, Chris fires it quite faster than Claire does. So yeah, got some major damage when he has the bowgun. Now if we load it with the explosive arrows, like so. So now let's test it with explosive arrows. I'm gonna do an angle where you could actually see the arrows do their work. You can't damage yourself with it by the looks of it. Alrighty then, pretty straightforward. Now I'm gonna go ahead and test both ammo types on some Bandersnatches. Alright, so between two Bandersnatches, it took between 11 and 13 arrows to defeat them. Not too shabby. These enemies are fairly strong, especially against something like that, so you want to keep your distance and fire it fast. Not like I did, because I'm trying to be precise. But yeah, those are regular bowgun arrows. Now let's see what happens when we switch over to explosive. Alright, so both Bandersnatches only took 2 explosive arrows to defeat them. So it knocks the firepower up 6-fold, just like that. So yeah, explosive arrows are a rare commodity. You should use them sparingly, like high-class ammo. I think you get a total of 50 explosive arrows in the entire game. So yeah. Alrighty then, that's gonna conclude the bowgun, the only miscellaneous weapon of Code Veronica X. So with the explosive arrows, that's a perfect segue into the explosive weapons, the last category of this weapon showcase. First one I want to show you is the grenade launcher. It should look really familiar, but first let's go over all these ammo types, because grenade launchers are well known to contain multiple rounds. First, you got the explosive rounds, or grenade rounds. These could be used with the M79 grenade launcher. Are you serious? Now let's check the acid rounds. A special bullet filled with sulfuric acid. That is more like it. It looks like they're getting a little scientific again like they did with Resident Evil 3. Let's check the flame rounds. A special bullet filled with napalm gel. Yep. And finally, BOW gas rounds. This is this game's exclusive round. This takes the place of freeze rounds, obviously. These anti-BOW gas bullets are filled with gas. Are just okay. I can't use any words that are not considered disrespectful with what I want to say right now. But yeah, these descriptions are making me dumber. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, those are the different types of rounds. So now let's go over the weapon itself. M79 G launcher. This use 40mm rounds. Get your grammar correct. Anyway, so this is obviously the same M79 grenade launcher that we saw in its full form in Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil Survivor, and now we're seeing it again. So this is based, obviously, on the M79 grenade launcher. The location of the grenade launcher is on the basement first floor of the military training facility, specifically in the basement storehouse. Now you first need to get the emblem keycard in order to open the shutter to access this weapon. Use that and open the shutter. There you go. And it's worth mentioning that alternate Claire gets the grenade launcher with the usual types of ammo in her loadout in Battle Game. And it's worth mentioning what she can get in the slot machine is a set of BOW gas rounds. Infinite, of course. That might help you a bit. Out of all the rewards that this slot machine grants you, Wesker's Magnum and Claire's BOW gas rounds are the most worth it. So here's Claire holding it, looking the same as ever. Get her pose. Now here's her aiming it. Get that close-up angle right here, but I'm not gonna fire it here because we wanna see the rounds. That's the focus of stuff like this. So here we go. All right, now we're gonna load it with acid rounds. Alrighty, now some flame rounds. And finally, BOW gas rounds. Oh, she just got sprayed with all that. Not that it did anything to her. Now to test out their firepower, we're gonna test 3 of the 4 rounds on Bandersnatches. The reason why only 3 of the 4 is because BOW gas rounds themselves can't kill an enemy, but they have a very special effect. I'll go over it more when we get to that round in the enemy testing. So one of them only took 1. I was like very close up and all of the individual rounds hit him. The second one took 2, but I feel like it's because only 1 of the particles actually hit him. And I've been told that during their stun animation, they may have invincibility frames. So it would make sense, the fact that it took 2, because only 1 or maybe 2 of the particles hit him there, and all the rest of them didn't do anything to him. So I'm gonna go on a whim and say, if all the particles hit them, it's likely always gonna be 1 one shot, but if you allow them to scatter at all, it could take up to 3 rounds if you have them really scattered or you're too far away from the Bandersnatch. Alright, so that is explosive rounds. Now let's try acid rounds. Alright, so for both Bandersnatches, it took 2 acid rounds each, and that's an individual round, so I don't think distance matters in that case. Alright, let's switch over to flame rounds. Okay, so one took only 1 flame round, while the other took 2. So either a difference in enemy health points or round damage points, I'm not sure, but there was a difference between the 2 Bandersnatches there. Alright, so those are the 3 regular rounds. Now, for BOW gas rounds, I saved a special enemy for that. Okay, so I got the BOW gas rounds loaded, and I'm gonna test these on the Tyrant on the plane. Specifically the Tyrant 078, and this is sort of the game's midpoint. Now the reason I brought the bowgun specifically with explosive arrows is because one of the best strategies to get through this fight the fastest without the rocket launcher is to use all 3 BOW gas rounds plus 4 arrows, and that should defeat him. What BOW gas rounds do specifically is they cut the enemy health points in half. Whether you hit them directly with the round or they're affected by the gas, I don't think it matters. It just cuts your enemy health points in half. So, we're gonna get it down to 12.5% by hitting all 3 rounds against him, and then just 4 explosive arrows should do it. And there you go. All right, so that is all of the rounds for the grenade launcher for you guys, hence the end of the weapon. All right, we're getting close to the end. Time for the next explosive weapon, the rocket launcher, the infinite one to be specific. Check it out. Another name for a rocket launcher is bazooka. You can defeat most enemies with 1 shot. You gotta say that. So cool. Not bad. Now, this rocket launcher in particular is based off the AT-4 with some grips added to it. Now, this is an unlockable weapon. You can't find it, like, regularly anywhere. To unlock this, you have to beat Code Veronica in under 4.5 hours. Now, compared to previous requirements, that seems pretty generous, but that just goes to show you how long they expect you to take completing this game for the first time. I will say here and now, out of all the classic games, I think Code Veronica is the longest, and one of the most difficult out of all of them. That's been my opinion for a very long time. So here it is in game, Claire holding it. Surprisingly, it doesn't look all that large compared to previous rocket launchers. So let's go ahead and test it out. Okay, that's obviously not gonna work, and I'm surprised she didn't vaporize right there. And there's no aiming up or down with it. Nice. Alrighty, so we're gonna do what I always do with rocket launchers. We're just gonna test this on every enemy we can come across in this game. So as always, enjoy the explosive slideshow. Alrighty, we have reached the end. Time for the final weapon of Code Veronica X, the Linear Launcher. Anti-BOW Linear Launcher, an advanced weapon developed to handle BOWs. Alright, I'll take that description. Oh yeah, looking like a futuristic laser type weapon thing. But yeah, obviously this is not based on anything. This is a completely fictional weapon exclusive to the Resident Evil universe. So it can only be used in the final battle of the game. So here's the location of it, obviously showing you now, this cutscene. I'll try to use it without actually hitting my target. Alright, now let's do the actual enemy test. And you get a small cutscene with it, just like that. And yeah, that's the linear launcher. Now I have to mention, it is also an unlockable in Battle Game. In order to get it, you have to beat Battle Game with every character with an A rank. It's a pretty hefty requirement. It's the largest in the game. Once you do this, you basically 100% of the game. But once you do it, every character has the linear launcher in their inventory from the start. And of course, it's infinite since it's charged. So this is a god tier weapon at this point. So I'm in Battle Game now with Claire, so she could use it. But doesn't matter who you aim it with, you get first person view because it's like a scoped weapon, just like the sniper rifle. And you could zoom in, of course, too. Now, yeah, as you can see, we could test this on regular enemies through this. Just completely obliterate zombies. It's pretty much an alternative rocket launcher, more or less. Now, there's no point switching over to first person because once you aim it, you're in the same aiming mode. So it's completely redundant to see it in that view. Okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are the weapons of Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Hope you enjoyed the video. I mean, out of the games I've done so far, this one was probably the most grating, or it took the most amount of time. But overall, it's still relatively simple with the amount of weapons and the enemies that I decided to test it on. And using an emulator, I did have the power of save states, so that made the process quite easier. And yeah, pretty straightforward weapon review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Now, of course, being at the end of the review, first, let's go over some unused weapons. Weapons that you could see in the game, but you yourself can't use with any character. So first, you got the Browning HP. Claire actually has this on her person in the opening cutscene of the game, and she does fire off a few rounds. This is supposedly the same Browning HP that she had from the Raccoon City incident. Like, she kept it for the couple months it's been since then.
Don't move.
Next, you got a Desert Eagle that Rodrigo uses in the cutscene.
Don't move.
It's interesting that you don't see this when he frees you from his cell. Instead, he's just sporting a Beretta 93 Ravnica. But in the opening cutscene, he clearly has a Desert Eagle. The specific type of Desert Eagle happens to be a Mark 7, according to imfdb.org. Next, you got a GE M134 minigun. These are mounted on the helicopter that's firing at Claire. And that very popular cutscene that was reused in live-action Resident Evil movie. But yeah, the helicopter has these Gatling guns, the M134 minigun. This is essentially the same Gatling gun as we've used in Resident Evil 2 and 3, just mounted instead of handheld. Next, we got the Browning M2 HB. This is the mounted machine gun that Steve uses to fire upon Claire when you're just getting the handgun. No! Finally, we got the MG34 Panzerlauf. Now, according to the wiki, this is the skinny barrel that's protruding out of Alfred's tank out here in the training facility yard. It's not the main cannon. It's this little skinny barrel that you can see right here protruding out. That's according to the wiki, so I'm just mentioning it here. But honestly, since you only see the barrel part of it, it's hardly worth mentioning. Now finally, let's look at these low poly guns that we see in these display cases here. There's quite a few different ones here, and I'm gonna drop some potential weapons that they could be based off of. Now, full disclosure here, these are purely speculative guesses, but they were provided by one of my longtime followers and certified gun nut, Overlord, formerly known as Titty Blasters 69. Despite his knowledge though, with the low amount of detail that these low poly guns provide, some of these are far-fetched or generic, and we didn't have a lot to go off of. So first we got a set of various combat knives. Next, we got a couple of handguns on display. Now to quote Overlord, these are just a couple of 1911s, and drawing context clues from Alfred's fondness for Vietnam and World War I era guns, maybe these are original models manufactured in the year 1911. One being the full-size standard 5-inch barrel, and the other being a smaller 4-inch barrel. Maybe for concealment? Now across the room, we got a couple of revolvers on display here. Now quoting Overlord again, these are just some idolized Colt Pythons, one having its standard full-size 6-inch barrel, and the other one below it, same gun, with a 4-inch barrel. Now if we go into where the gold Lugers are stored, there's some more weapons on display in these cases, from many countries apparently. Now I'm going to work my way up from the bottom. According to Overlord, this is a Sawshat machine gun, and is a pathetic excuse for a machine gun, and had a miserable service record throughout all of World War I. Now, if you know me well enough, this is the kind of information that I don't care to do research on. This is history and very specific info about stuff with some opinions of a certified gun nut thrown in. But this is not the way I talk. Do not ever expect me to speak like this. Next up is this generic looking rifle of sorts. Now, this one, according to Overlord, was just a little too hard to determine what exactly it is. It can be any run-of-the-mill bolt action rifle or bolt action shotgun, apparently. Me personally, I think this is just a replica of Alfred's sniper rifle, but there's a lot of details missing. Next, you got what appears to be a Vietnam-era M16 assault rifle with a night vision scope attached. Now, Overlord wanted me to emphasize the fact that it's Vietnam-era, like late 60s, and that Alfred could have spent a ballpark figure of $100,000 on this thing. Next up is what is obviously a shotgun. Now, my personal guess for this was a Remington 870 because we've seen it several times in the franchise. However, in the case that that's not a pump on the end, but rather a grip, and it's a semi-automatic shotgun, then it could be the Remington Model 1100, that boomstick of a shotgun from RE2. Now coming up here to the top, on the left, we got some more bladed weapons, including knives, and what seems to be a machete or sword or dagger of sorts. And on the right, we got some more handguns. Looking at this one, some sort of pistol. Now, Overlord would love to believe that this is a Tokarev TT-33, which would be awesome because I know that weapon from GoldenEye 007. But due to the shape, he had doubts, and after research on both his and my part, we came to agree that it seems to bear the most resemblance to a CZ-52, an older weapon indeed. Next, we got a very generic and old-looking revolver. This one was really tricky, but after much research on both of our ends, ultimately concluded that this appears to be a Smith & Wesson safety hammerless revolver. Now, this gun here seems obvious at what it is. This has to be a model of the 10-inch Desert Eagle from Resident Evil 2. And those are all of the low poly weapons. All right, you know what? I'll go ahead and mention, since I was implored by some other people, apparently there was supposed to be a 44 auto mag in this game, but the only indication whatsoever of it is an unused inventory icon. I had to go through the internet just to find this. I almost didn't want to mention it, but since I know about it, I figured might as well. Alright, so those are all the unusable weapons. Now, let's add the total amount of legitimate weapons in this game to the grand total of weapons we have gone over so far in this second remaking era of mine. So 14 total weapons from Code Veronica X added to the 44 we had up to this point makes our grand total so far 58. All right, we're building it up, but still got a long way to go. We will have a long way to go for a long time. I'm just gonna keep saying that. But plenty of weapons to go. We're at 58 so far. Awesome sauce. Alrighty, people, so that's gonna conclude my ultimate weapon showcase of Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I've been having a blast with the second remaking era so far, let me tell you. And I'm looking forward to the future because they're just gonna get better and better. Even though some games are really, really lame, and the mere quality of the game itself is probably gonna take away a little bit from how enthusiastic I'm about these. But since I'm going off of a really carefully planned template for all these weapon showcases, I have no problem tackling all of them. So the next game in the franchise is Survivor 2, Code Veronica. So we're gonna see most of these weapons all over again in the upcoming review, so look forward to that. Until then, this is Shankster94, aka The Gamer Shankster. Slap a like on this video, subscribe if you haven't to the channel already, turn on notifications to the full so you know exactly when I upload a new video, and share this video with your friends. Follow me on all social medias. First, you got X Twitter at Shankster_94. I'm fairly active there. I follow a lot of people, and I've been getting real good touch with community members of the Resident Evil franchise. Facebook, I'm not really active. It's just an extension of my YouTube, but you could always give it a follow if you want an extra outlet. And support me on Patreon. Shout out to my current active patrons as I'm making this video. There they are. And finally, do not forget to join my Discord server if you haven't already, because, once more, one of the funnest things to do in my Discord server is to actually be a part of the creative process that goes behind making these videos. Like, anytime I'm recording the overviewing of the weapons, I got at least 3 different people in the lobby with me in case I missed something or there's an extra detail to add. If you want to communicate with me in general, join that Discord server. One of the best ways for you guys to do so. Alrighty, guys. Hope you have a great day. Peace out. See you guys in Survivor 2, Code Veronica Ultimate Weapon Showcase.